me.
Start recording, start streaming. And come on. And we're live, I think.
Alrighty.
Yeah, and I can even hear you. That's perfect.
Yeah, I recently switched to the headset that I got when I started at Microsoft. My Yeti has been very temperamental lately.
Well, you know, things happen.
Yeah,
Did you see
it's
the tweet of Scott Kate? He broke his headset too.
oh
The
no.
Surface, I think it was the Surface headset 1. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's I think he shared it on the on Twitter that it was mostly used by his daughter, but yeah, they
Yeah.
broke in the middle.
Oh
They
wow.
crack and just like I was joking like, did you sit on them or what? Like, how could they
Right.
crack like that? Apparently, it's just, but I don't know. Maybe a lot of traveling, being
Yeah.
squeezed and push, and I don't know.
Yeah. Oh no.
Well, you know,
It's
I'm very
technology.
hesitating. Like I heard a lot of good things about the Surface headset 2,
Mm.
and I was very, but I have like the Bose that are
Yeah,
good. They are not pushing on my glasses, so like
that's
I
good.
can wear them comfortably for a long time. But they are big, so I'm looking for something smaller,
Yeah.
less in your face.
Yeah.
I gave a name. Look, you know, on your phone when you pair them, you can give a name to your device. So my
Mhm.
Bose headset is called Leia, like you know in the
Oh,
Star Wars
yeah.
because of her.
Oh, it looks like her hair. Yeah. Yeah, I have honestly way too many. I have a drawer of headsets. That's how many I have. My favorite's probably my pink phone. I sometimes connect this to either my regular cell phone, which is why I originally bought it, or if I'm taking calls during the day and if I'm using my Yeti, I'll connect it to the bottom. But usually I use my Beats. I mean, because I got them for free when I had got my Mac. And so that's how I got those. But these I actually got when I started at Microsoft, and they're really good. I really like them, but I like pretty stuff. So
Yeah, they are regular. They are efficient,
yeah.
but you know less sex. I have also a
Yeah.
nice headset with a mic. It's very
Hmm.
convenient, like when you want to isolate yourself and like
Yeah.
for speaking. This is cool. If I
Hmm.
go to the office, most of the time it's that one because it kind of mute everybody and like people when I'm on the phone or a call with them, they don't hear of it anything else. But yeah, like
Hmm. Yeah.
they are efficient.
It's interesting how the noise canceling ones, how much of a difference they make when you take them off. I noticed just how much louder life is beyond the noise canceling headphones.
Oh
So
yeah. Oh yeah, but there's different
yeah.
types. So my Bose are really good for like the like ventilation or in a plane or something like that. But the other one I have is the
Mm-hmm.
Jabra. Jabra is better for voice. If people are
Mm-hmm.
talking
Hmm.
around you, like that's better on
Yeah.
that kind of noise canceling. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
I'm not an expert. I'm a user.
Right. We're the customers.
Yeah. That one I like for this purposes, but both
Yeah.
are black. I don't have any pink
Oh, it's
anything.
okay.
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah.
right.
So Feremi is saying she already love you.
Oh, thank you. You'll have to keep an eye on the chat for me today, Frank. I have had recently had some bandwidth issues, so usually I look at it on my other computer, but today I'm gonna keep that one closed. So if anything interesting comes
Yeah,
by,
well, we just
let
get
me know.
raid from Visual Studio with
Yay!
48, so a big
Ooh,
party of raiders.
yay!
Welcome, raiders. So a
Welcome everyone.
bunch of hellos right now coming in.
Yay!
Yeah. And how about we get started? Because I'm sure you have a lot of stuff like usual.
Yes, I am ready. Let me make sure the HoloLens is. Yep, HoloLens
Okay,
is
so
ready.
let me
So
do that
good.
little intro and we get started. Bonjour, hi, welcome to the stream. I'm Frank Boucher, I'm a Microsoft Cloud Advocate, and today with me I have April, who's also a Cloud Advocate. She's an expert in mixed reality, definitely, and she likes to build stuff to make us look smart. Is it? Yeah? It's good, right?
I'll take it today.
It's good. Like you always come with like those project or ideas like it won't fit in like an hour and a half, like it looks too complicated, but then like you explain it and like in everything it is simple. So like yeah, you
Yeah.
definitely have that talent where like you simplify things. It's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. And I will say, full disclosure, if you haven't met me yet or tuned into either the past couple week streams, I've been here with Frank. I myself recently started in this entire extended reality space just last summer. So it's been a year now, I will say officially, it's been a year since I started learning how to do anything in this
See how
space.
much she's awesome.
But that goes to show you that it's not rocket science and you don't need years upon years of experience. The only other programming experience I had beyond this was Python, and I can't even say that Python and this are connected in any way. So it's been a lot of learning, but a lot of what I like to show are things that I feel are projects that are approachable for beginners. And so that's what I have to share with you all today. So are we ready to look at the project, Frank?
Yes, I am. So should we start by a demo?
Before we switch to demo, I'm just going to explain what you're going to see while I'm here on
Excellent. So
camera.
we show your screen
Yeah, so,
and
or
we
me.
see
Is it
it.
me still or me? Show me first.
i'm
Is it
i'm
me still?
I'm right now I'm seeing your
Okay.
your screen.
Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do is show you the project that I've made, and it's a remake of a prior project that I had made with monuments, where you can learn more about different monuments from around the world, and there will be some facts. What's great is that I also included our Azure bot service as well. In the old example that I had, there was a button that you press and you had to read all the facts, but now I have a bot that you can ask questions and then they will, or the bot will, respond back to you. So before we do that, let me make sure I remember some of the questions that I have. All right, I see them. And let's head into doing, there we go. Let's go into live preview. I'm going to get up and there we go. I'm going to get up and there we go. For the record, Frank, I can't hear you. So just as a FYI. All right. For the record, Frank, I can't hear you. So just as a FYI. All right. I believe it's this
This is
one.
crazy. And we are in a movie, everybody.
Hello and welcome.
All right. So, Frank, I just want to confirm you can hear, you can see, you're smiling. Great. All right. So, I will speak as loud as I can so the mic picks me up. What you're seeing in front of you is a Monumental World Tour, is what I call it. And we have 5 monuments in front of me. We have the Great Pyramids of Giza, we have the Great Pyramid itself. Oops, I didn't mean to trigger it, sorry. We have Christ the Redeemer, which is right here, the next one. Big Ben. Then we have Constantine's Arch, and we have the Parthenon. And then over here on to the right, I have a microphone, and that's how I'm going to activate the bot itself. Now, the monuments are sitting on what's called the dock. The dock is a experimental mixed reality toolkit feature, or UX building block that you can incorporate into your mixed reality projects. But what happens is that you can take an object off the dock, and once you do, you can set it into your environment. And then if I back up, I can see it, I can look at it, I can also walk around it as well. Now, what I've done was add a bot, whereas you can ask questions and the bot will give you a response. So I'm hoping the bot is picking up as she talks. So let's start. How big is Big Ben?
Big Ben is 315 feet tall.
So I'm hoping you heard Big Ben is 315 feet tall. If not, I apologize. Um, we have the Parthenon here to my right. So let me put this back on the dock and it'll go back to its small size, as you can see. I'm going to grab the Parthenon here,
This is
which is
so
also
cool.
massive. Let me lower it a little bit. Oops, I didn't realize it wasn't all the way off the dock yet. It doesn't like being pulled away. Let's see. There we go. So that's pretty big. I have to back up a little bit so you can see it, but you can kind of see it from the side here. I can walk around it if I come around my office. There it is. I can ask this question. When was the Parthenon destroyed?
The Parthenon was partially destroyed on September 26, 1687 by an Ottoman ammunition dump inside the building ignited by Venetian bombardment during a siege of the Acropolis.
All right. So I'm going to return this to the dock. I can just grab it, and there it is. So I hope that you were able to hear that. And let's exit out of there, and let's look at some
Make
code.
sure.
I am coming back to the headset. Were you able to hear the bot?
Yeah.
Okay,
Like
good.
it was your voice, the bot, the image was crystal clear. At least for me, I don't know. Chat, you can confirm if it was also for you.
Okay.
I think April will really appreciate that. It was awesome. We could even hear the like your voice repeating probably in the video playing on your computer or something
Oh,
like, but
that's probably
just
what it
very
was.
little.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
so
That's good to
everybody's
know for the
saying I was
future.
awesome.
Oh, yay. All right, so let me
And
get a drink of
who
water
was it?
here.
So Beldatas said, "Oh my God, the Arc of Triomphe! I live 5 minutes near it. You know, you
Yes.
should go out and wave for us." And
That would be cool, right?
yeah,
So yeah, so that is what we're going to walk through today, and I'll show you how to add all the Azure fun because the bot itself was made possible with Azure, and that is going to lead us right here into the Q&A maker, which is what should be on the screen now. And so if you've never used Q&A maker, I'm going to be 100% honest. My first time using it was last week, and I'm already at the point where I'm continually using it, and it seems very intuitive. I first learned about it last year at Build, and I saw a demo, and I really liked it because for those of you who do know me and those who don't know me, I come from a world of primarily making bots, and I love working with bots. So I find the Q&A maker to be a very intuitive process. As it says here, no code experience, and that's 100% true. You don't need to know how to code to use this. There is automatic extraction. I watched a video of someone uploading, I think it was like a manual, for example, and then based on like how the headers and such was made, it was able to pull out the different context that was needed for the bot. And so that's pretty helpful. So you don't necessarily need to only have it in a script format with a question and answer. As the website says, it can semi-construct the content from FAQ pages, support websites, Excel files, SharePoint documents, product manuals, policies. So you have a lot of options there, which I think is really helpful if you want to extract from existing content. You have some multi-turn conversations. I haven't personally used that yet, but in my experience with using that, it's really helpful if you want to direct your conversation in different directions. And so the bot itself, there's actively learning. And so also, you can use chat in more than 50 languages, which is great because I love when things go beyond just English. So you have the flexibility of using a lot of languages. And as Frank knows, I love languages. So that part always makes me happy. So when I first started working on this, the very first thing that I did that I will also suggest for you all at home to go do if you're brand new to using the Q&A maker is to actually use our Learn module that we have for building a bot. And Frank, if you could share the aka.ms/learnqna bot with everyone at home. And that will bring you here to the Learn module itself. The reason why I suggest trying out with the Learn module is that it's going to open up into, at some point, there's going to be a Visual Studio.
April?
Yeah.
Which one? I don't see
Yeah,
it.
it's the very last one I sent via email.
Oh
It was
yeah, yeah,
in
okay.
the follow-up one. Yep.
Why are you doing that to me? You're sending it in the wrong order. That's worse. She's
I
messing with
can't
me.
be perfect.
That's fine. So I'm just,
Thank you.
that's
Thank
fine.
you.
Okay, it's shared.
So I will suggest taking a look at this Learn module because towards when you get into like the meat and potatoes of it, of the actual exercise, you're going to be working in a Visual Studio Code space, and there's a notebook in there that'll walk you through how to create your bot. I personally say try this out because it's almost kind of like a guided lesson on how to use the Q&A maker. And so I just wanted to share that with you all so that way if you want to just learn how to use the Q&A maker itself, that is where I would suggest starting. Now, I already have it open here, and I already have two different bots created. One is Margie's Travel KB. That's the one that you're going to create over in the Learn module. And so, again, highly suggest trying that out. The second one, though, is the one that we're going to be using today, which is the Monuments-April one that I have already made. Now, when you're starting out with the Q&A maker, the first step would be to create a knowledge base. And in here, the first step, I think there's 3 or 4 steps. There's 5 steps. The very first thing is to create a Q&A service in Azure. So you will need an Azure account. You'll sign up for that, and then you'll create the Q&A service itself. I already have one created, which is great. And if I go to my resources, I believe that one's going to be... It's one of these that's in here. I can't remember exactly which one, but when you do press the button for create a Q&A service, the window will automatically open up to Azure, and that's where you'll create the service. Once you create that service, you'll go into step 2, which at that point, you're going to come back over here into the Q&A maker. You'll click refresh here, and that's going to help populate with some options based on what you just created. One thing I will say that's a slight gotcha that I ran into when I created mine was that it kept telling me that the user didn't have permission to use this particular resource. If that happens, there are some permissions. I think there's a permission setting somewhere that you can go in and add. And let me see if I can find that really quick. Because I don't 100% remember which one it was in. I think it's this one. So where it says access control, in there is where you can go and you can add oh, maybe this one isn't it. It's one of these. I think I'm going crazy, Frank, because I know I saw it. I've done it a million times. So let's see. It's in one of these. So trust me when I say that it happens, and you will need to come in and do it. So sorry I can't find it right now. But if you run into that issue, just remember that there is an access control. That's where you can come in and add your own account as an admin. So that's just a FYI. And then in here, once you refresh that, your Azure Directory ID will already be populated. So mine, I created mine under my Vogan code name. So that's why it says Vogan code there. And then Azure subscription name, that's where you'll select your subscription type. The Azure Q&A service will be based on what you have available. So I only have 2 because I have 2 different bots. Select the bot that you just made. In my case, it would be the Monuments-April. And then for language, I already have English selected because that's what it's created for, but it very quickly went away when I tried to show you all. There's a long list of languages that are available for you to choose from, so that is your moment to select your language. And so to reiterate, step 2, this is where you're connecting your Q&A service to your knowledge base. Now, the knowledge base itself, as I mentioned earlier, it can come from the actual documentation can come from a variety of resources, whether that's product manuals, policies, Q&A guides, websites, what have you. Azure is smart enough to extract that information from it and put it in Q&A pairs, and you can modify that. So you're going to give the knowledge base itself a name. And then down from there in step 4, this is where you can either point to a particular URL, for example, or you can upload a file. I personally uploaded a file for mine, and because this was a prototype, I don't have facts for every single monument. I did it for, I believe, 2, but I did mine in a Q&A form in Excel, as you can see here. So one column says question, the other one says answer, and then down below I have some questions and then the corresponding answers as well. So it doesn't need to be something that's large and grand and in some very interesting convoluted format. If you're doing the Excel route like I did, this format here with one column questions, the other one answer is good enough. Okay. So you'll take that and you're going to click add a file if you're doing that approach, and then you'll upload the file there. The next thing that I like in here that's in step 4 is chit chat. And so this will give your bot the ability to also engage in small talk, which I think is pretty great when working with bots, because I feel for the most part, when we are speaking with bots, we know we're speaking with bots. But when you're able to add some personality to your bot, it really does make a difference. And so we have 5 different options for chit chat. That's professional, friendly, witty, caring, and enthusiastic.
So
And so
Swift Chat in the chat is say, "Oh, I wish there's a sarcastic chat style."
that would be cool. It would definitely be cool. I would say for when you're adding chit chat to your experiences, if you've never necessarily worked with any of these options, add it to your bot. When we head to the next page, you'll actually see some of the different phrases that come with chit chat. We also have a link that will take you to more information about chit chat as well. For this bot, I initially had used friendly, but I didn't feel that any of the conversations from the bot made sense for the experience, so I deleted it. So that's one thing to keep in mind, is that even if you add one of these chit chats into your knowledge base, you don't have to keep it. You can remove it. And then finally, the last thing you'll do is create your knowledge base. So as I said, I already have one, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. I'm going to head back to my knowledge bases, and I'm going to click on monuments-April. So here is my knowledge base based on the questions that I provided. And as you can see, it pulls in very nicely with questions on one side, answers on the other. If you were to utilize something like a manual, for example, it'll also pull into this format. But what's great is, let's say you don't like the way it was pulled in, you can modify whatever is here to your liking, which I think is really nice as well. So that way you have some flexibility. Now, what's also great is, even though I'm using my bot for talking purposes, you could also use your bot if it's going to be in a chat window, for example, and that will give you the ability to use things like images or even emojis, for example, and hyperlinks and so on and so forth. So you do have that flexibility there. We have some alternative phrasing. So let's say for the question, where was the Great Pyramids of Giza located? If I wanted another way to say that, I could also say, where is the Great Pyramid? Because maybe someone will ask a question in that format. The purpose of the alternative phrasing is to really think about how other people might ask questions, because for an experience where you're starting off with saying hello, let's say like hello was the trigger to start the conversation. Mm-hmm. I might say hi, Frank might say hello, someone else might say what's up. So you want to have those different ways of phrasing something. Same with the answers as well. There is whatever the answer is that's in the answer column, that's what the bot's going to respond with. There are follow-up prompts that you can add as well. I haven't added those necessarily, but you could add that. And then, of course,
what would be an example of a follow-ups prompt?
So let's see, because I haven't used it with our service, but we can find out right now, actually. So follow-up prompts. No, you're fine. I usually use, in my experience, I usually use these when I work with, it's a non-Microsoft product, but Twilio also has autopilot, which is very similar. And follow-ups is how I usually chain my different bot responses to create a much longer conversation. So it's kind of like mapping the conversation to different
Okay.
other things that the bot can do. But in this case, we can actually find out together now. So follow-up prompts can be used to guide the user through a conversational flow, and they're used to link Q&A pairs and can be displayed as buttons or suggested actions in a bot. So it's the same thing. So it's linking the different questions, which I'm very glad that there's consistency in how the bot world approaches these. So yeah, so you can use these to link different potential other things that the bot can say or do. So for this particular experience, I did a good example is if I were to, if the question was where was the Great Pyramids of Giza located, and then it would respond with this, and if the bot was to follow up and say, would you like to learn who built it, for example, that would be like a really good example of using like a follow-up prompt in this particular example.
Awesome.
Also, while in here, we can also delete any of the questions. So if I decide I don't like any of them, I can delete them. And one other thing that I noticed earlier when I was testing this out is that I actually had a typo in my original file. And I was wondering why the bot kept saying September as September. It didn't make sense to me. And then I looked back and saw that I spelt it as September. So that's something to keep in mind, is that the bot will say what you give it. So in this case, because I have the option here to come in here and change what's here, I'm going to add the B in September. So now it says September. And when the bot goes to say the answer to when was the Parthenon destroyed, it'll be the correct one. Also, what I like is that the bot seems to do a pretty decent job with pronunciation. There was something.
Okay.
One other thing to keep in mind is that if she's doing numbers for something like how big is Big Ben, and her response is Big Ben is 315 feet tall, the number itself is written 315. But for something such as when did construction begin, I sometimes like to space those things out. So since the answer is 447 BC, I didn't want to have BC together because I wasn't sure how she might say that verbally. So I spaced those things out. It's kind of like when you're working with alt text, for example, and if you're working with a screen reader, you want to make sure that you are typing it in a way that it can be read to actually be verbalized the way that you intend. So what's great is that even though I just changed this here, that actually leads me to the next step of the Q&A maker, which is saving and training it. So now that I made this change, even when you're first starting out creating this, you'll click Save and Train. And this will train the bot with whatever updates you've made to your knowledge base. And so while that's updating, the other thing I want to point out is that you can also test this as well in the browser. So here in Test, it'll open up in like a chat window, and I could say, where is the Great Pyramid? I'm not sure if you can see that, but
it's under you, but yeah.
It's under me. Oh, sorry. Idea. Let's make this like this.
Oh,
so now you can
wonderful.
see it.
Yep.
Like that. So here in this chat, is my head still blocking it, Frank?
No, that's perfect.
Cool. So what I did was I typed in where is the Great Pyramid, and then this is what the bot gave back. But since we actually want something verbal, it's better to test things like this over in Unity, which is what we'll do in a moment. So that's just as a heads up. So now that I have my knowledge base saved and trained, I'm going to close this test. And from here, you go to publish. And then if you've never published the bot or if you've never published a knowledge base at all, this screen might look a little different for you. But what's going to be important and completely the same is clicking this publish button. So because I just made an update, I'm going to go ahead and publish it. So that way, when we use it over in Unity later, it'll update with that change I made to September. And then from here, you're going to create a bot if you haven't created the bot yet. I've already created one, so we're going to look at the one that's already been created. But if you haven't created your bot, you'll click Create Bot. That's going to take you over to Azure, and the screen will be different. It'll take you to, I think you have to search for resources, or no, I think it'll take you to the creation of the bot service itself. And I already have one, so we'll take a look at it. And this is essentially what the bot channel or the bot service itself looks like. In the Learn module that I shared, there are instructions for how to go through and setting or what to fill out when you're doing this. And I also have a tutorial that I need to share in a moment that'll also walk you through this. But in any case, you'll create the bot. And then once it finishes deploying, the very first thing you're going to want to do is come over here to the channels. And that's going to be, let me close this. That'll be in this left menu that says channels. And by default, it gives you a web chat, but we're not going to use that because we need what's called a direct line of speech. We want to make sure we can add voice for our bot. Now, if you've never used direct line of speech before, totally cool, because guess what? We have a doc that walks you through it. And so I believe this one, Frank, I don't think I gave you this link. No, I didn't give you this one. But there is maybe I can slip it into the Skype chat.
Yeah.
Sorry, Frank.
No, that's
the
fine.
last minute.
I will add it, and I will add it in the show note when we publish the blog post and the YouTube video.
Thank you. So this document is step-by-step instruction of how to add a direct line speech channel. And essentially what you're going to do is, I'm already here at step 2, which is where you come in and you add direct line. And what it'll do is ask you to select your cognitive service account. And so for me, I chose the one that I already had created. And then from there, you click save. And then once you've done that, I couldn't quite show that on the screen because I already have it set up. But once you get done with that, the next thing you'll do is come in to settings, and you'll need to enable streaming endpoint. And then once you've done that, there is another thing, configuration. You'll come into there, and once you're in configuration, you'll come to general settings, and you're going to want to ensure that WebSockets is on. So that's setting up the direct line speech. So once you've set that up, then the last thing you need to do is head over to Unity, and then we can go add it to the experience itself. Before we head into Unity, there's one other thing that I do want to share, Frank, and it's a little long of a link, but it's called Interact with a Bot in C# Unity.
Oh, well, okay, so that one I already share. So it means that was the last link I have. So then Belt Data was right.
Oh.
The first link I shared was the wrong one because that's the last link I had.
Do you earlier did you share an aka.ms Learn QnA Bot link?
I don't think I have that one. Is it in the email you sent me?
It was a follow-up in the email, but worst case, what I can do is...
I have the if I go from the bottom, I had the Interact with the Bot C# Unity. I will share that again. I have the QnA Maker. I have Windows Device Portal. I have Mixed Reality Tool, H2L, and Get It Started.
Okay, so this was the one that from earlier when I was in Learn. It's aka.ms QnA Bot. At this point, if you want to try the Learn module that I mentioned, then the aka.ms/QnA Learn QnA Bot will take you there. But in any case, the one that we were just talking about, Interact with the Bot in C# Unity, looks like this. It is
boom. I shared it.
Thank you. It is a code sample which will walk you through how to interact with the bot in C# Unity. This is literally what I used to create this experience in itself, or at least to get a bot working in here, because I did my own little April magic as well. But this was what I followed. And so if you're looking for where you can find the script to add to it, this is where I will say start. You will also notice in here that the instructions are also going to walk through similar steps of what I'm going to walk through as well today. So that's just a heads up if you're looking for a code sample that you can try out on your own as the world waits for me to add my samples to our samples browser, which I'm working on. So over in Unity, let's go have some fun. I have the project set up here already, and what we're going to focus on today is adding that Azure component in here. But what I will do at least is just highlight some of the different mixed reality toolkit areas that I think is worth knowing. So starting off, when you are in Unity, the very first thing that you want to do is configure your computer for Windows Mixed Reality development. And then you'll also want to import the Mixed Reality Toolkit. I have two links that'll walk you through how to do that. Frank, the first one, if you could share, is...
I'm ready.
I don't think I'm ready. Let me think which one it was. The first one that I want you to share is, let's see. I forget my own link sometimes, which I think is a normal thing. I think this one is the MS.
Is it the QnA Maker?
No.
Device Portal HoloLens?
I think it's HL2 tutorials, but let's see. Yes. Wait, no.
Is
It's
it
not
the
that
import
one.
then? H2L import?
I think so. Let me see. HL2 MRTK. Yes, you are correct, Frank. It's the aka.ms/HL2 import MRTK link. You are a genius, Frank.
Boom. No.
Thank you.
I'm copy pasting here. Come on.
It's a hard task. So that link will take you here to steps on how to set up your computer for Windows Mixed Reality development. And there's also instructions on here on how to add the Mixed Reality Toolkit. I talk about the Mixed Reality Toolkit a lot because it helps accelerate your Mixed Reality development. And as someone that's new to this space, I find it to have been a lifesaver. The Mixed Reality Toolkit is available. The documentation is currently available within GitHub, some GitHub pages. Frank, if you could share the Getting Started with MRTK link, please.
Yes.
And that'll take you to this page. As if you want to know more about it, this is also where you can come and get the actual Unity packages. Follow the instructions here. The MRTK release page is where you can get those packages. So again, your computer or your project needs to be configured and set up for Windows Mixed Reality development following the instructions on the two different links that I just showed. And then the other thing I want to point out is how I got to this fabulous view of a dock and so on and so forth. So one thing I love to do is reuse whatever has been previously created. I'm a big fan of that. So if you happen to also download the Mixed Reality Toolkit examples package, which I highly suggest doing, that'll give you access to all the different examples that we share on the Mixed Reality Toolkit GitHub pages. What's great is that there is already an existing doc example. So that way you don't have to configure this from scratch. And that's what I did. And so I pulled that out of here. And that's how the doc exists. In addition to that, I then needed some monuments to use. And so for those monuments, I took a trip over to the Unity Assets store and I purchased...
took a trip to Egypt and all those countries.
And I found it, And I purchased and downloaded this Monuments Pack Low Poly by Interactive Project. If you want to do something similar, I would suggest giving this one a try. Unity does refunds if you don't like it, so that's worth knowing. But there's a good amount of monuments available for use, and so that's where I got my monuments from. I personally like using assets from the Unity Assets Store because Unity does have the ability to import them into the project while here in Unity, and I don't have to worry about making sure that the materials and stuff gets added to it, and I don't have to worry about issues that I really don't feel like dealing with, basically, if I use stuff from the Unity Assets Store.
Yeah.
But I have used Sketchfab as well. But in any case, I get them from the Unity Assets Store. I bring them, I import it in, and then that's how I have the objects. And so let me just go over to where they are here in my scene. I keep them all over to the left. Reason being is that when the scene starts, they're going to automatically dock to where they need to go. So it doesn't matter that I have them large and over here to the side. They're going to go to their respective places on the dock. And so when you're setting these up, just before we get into the Azure part, one thing I want to point out is that your objects will need 3 or 4 different things. One, the object needs to have a collider. Do not make the mistake that I made and not add a collider. So ensure that you're adding a collider component to the object. And So that'll be the box collider in my case. The second is there's going to be a script called dockable. That particular script is what you can add to an object to indicate that it will be docked or that it can be docked to this dock that we see in the scene. The next one is going to be the object manipulator, and the object manipulator script is going to be used to allow you to manipulate objects with your hands. So that's how I was grabbing the objects off the dock. You can also add some scaling and rotation constraints as well. In the very first example I made of this, we were able to make the objects or the monuments large or small. So I could have a tiny Big Ben or I could have a really large Big Ben, for example. And you can do all that with your hands. The last script that you want to add on here is the near interaction grabbable. And that's going to allow you to do near or close interactions with objects, which means I can walk up to it and grab it with my hand. So those are the 4 things you want to add to that if you are using the dock. Now, as for the Azure pieces here, what we need to do now is create a script that will make use of the bots that we created earlier. And we also need to add in a button so that way we can start the microphone to hear our utterance. So that way when we ask the question, the bot then can take what we say and use that to map which of the responses that she's to give. So the first thing I would say to do is for creating the microphone itself, I personally like to use buttons that are in the Mixed Reality Toolkit, which is why I suggested importing that into your project. They come with the toolkit as prefabs. And so if you are digging around in the project files for the Mixed Reality Toolkit that is imported into the project, you're going to find them in the MRTK features UX prefabs folder. And no, it's in the interactable folder. And then inside interactable, there's a prefabs folder. And then that's where you can find all the buttons. I always use this pressable button HoloLens 2 because to me, it's already perfect. It looks just like what I need. I can come in here and switch the icons out. So I personally used a microphone icon, and then you can change the label as well. So mine says microphone on it. You'll notice here that it says say button, and that's because you can add voice commands to trigger buttons as well. We're not doing that for this experience, so I didn't configure that, but that's just a heads up that you could also do that. So we have the microphone already created. The other thing that I added to the UI as well is some text. And this is because the script that I use from that sample that I shared earlier, it calls for some text elements that'll let you know that first the service is connected, and then it'll also output what was recognized. And then the other thing it'll also output is any errors that might be happening. So I created that using a quad, which is one of the primitives, the Unity primitives. It's just a flat surface that I personally like to use to add text on. And then I added 2 text elements as well, one for words recognized and the other one's for connection status and an error. So I added 3 actually. So you'll want to make sure you have those UI elements because when we go to create the script, all that's going to be required when you connect things to the script. So we are now ready for the actual script itself, and we're going to look at some code. Now, as I mentioned, I personally made use of the sample that we already have in the repo that I shared with you. The reason being is that we don't have to start from scratch. And I personally do not like starting from scratch. I like to use existing scripts and then making them my own. And so if you happen to clone this, download the files, there will be a script in here that you can use. One thing I will call out is that when I tried this recently, I did notice some adjustments to be made, and I opened a pull request and I opened an issue for it, and it's currently being under review. So hopefully by the time you take a look at this, you'll see the updates that are made. But I'm going to actually walk through that for you so you can see what I did if you're following along at home or watching this later. But in this particular sample, there are 2 scripts that you're going to use. And if I open in here, the first one is called audio data. That one you can use as is. You don't need to change a thing at all. The second one, They call it Dialogue Service Connector Sample. I renamed it as Bot in my own experience because I did my own tweaks to it. But those are going to be the two scripts that you need. So if you don't want to download this entire sample, at least get these two scripts because that's what you need. So with that said, we're going to head into Visual Studio. And the audio data one, I wish that I could say C# was my best friend, but it's not. And so I'm not going to be the best at explaining what's happening in here, but I can confirm through trial and error that you absolutely need this script or the service won't work because the bot script that we're going to look at in a second, it references this particular script. So as I mentioned, you can take this script, copy and paste it as is and save it. There's nothing else we're going to do to it, but this is just to show you what's in here in itself. My belief is that this is what's going to be needed as Azure sends back that audio file to be played in the experience itself. So again, this particular audio data script, copy and paste exactly as it is. There's nothing that you need to change. But what we are going to do is modify the bot one. So when you open the bot one, there's going to be a couple of different things that we need to add to the usings to make sure that we can use these libraries when we're working with this script. I don't remember exactly which of the ones I 100% added, but the ones I know for sure of, we need to make sure that we can use the cognitive services speech, and then speech.dialogue, and then speech.audio. And because we imported the Mixed Reality Toolkit, you're also going to want to add the Mixed Reality Toolkit UI as well. And that's because those elements that we made for the text, for example, is so we can use that later in the script itself. And then I believe everything else came with the script as is. Oh, and TM Pro. That's going to be Text Mesh Pro. So those text elements that I added earlier are from the Text Mesh Pro, and you'll need that so we can use that later in the script in the next section.
Wonderful.
So as for the different, I wish I was like the best at explaining C#. So I'm going to use my April terms of how to describe what these are.
I think we will all love that.
Yes. So this first section is what you're going to add before the awake and the start and the update methods. So for those of you who are familiar with Unity, you're aware of the awake, start, and update methods. For those of you who are newer to Unity, when you create a new script in Unity, the scaffolding provides a start method and an update method. And the start method is what's called when the scene loads. The update method gets called every single frame. So if you want something to happen as soon as the scene loads, you put it in the start method. If you want something to happen every single frame, you're going to put it in the update method. And then there's also this other one, which is awake. And that doesn't come automatically when you create a new script with Unity. This you add this yourself manually. So we'll get to that in just a second. But that's just a heads up on how this is formatted. Now, for the different elements that I want to be able to modify through the Unity UI, I'm going to create those as public strings. And that's essentially what that'll look like if I head back into Unity. And let me go to that microphone because that's where I have this. And let me collapse all these. This is where that script is. But here where it says subscription key, and then one says region and one says bot ID, that's where you can insert your cognitive services subscription key, and then your region and your bot ID. So in the script itself, I created these as public strings, created them as public, will enable you to add them over or see them or modify them, if you will, over in the Unity editor. The next thing that we have is the pressable button, and that one's going to be listen once button. So the pressable button is going to be that microphone button that we added earlier. If you're not using Mixed Reality Toolkit, then the type is not going to be pressable button. I believe it's just button. But because I'm using the Mixed Reality Toolkit, I went and looked in the documentation that we have for within like the reference area, and I found that it is of the type pressable button. So for that one, it's a pressable button, and it's going to be called Listen Once button. The Listen Once button, the name came to be based on the script that I grabbed from the sample I showed you earlier. So you don't have to call it that, but if you do change it, make sure you change it wherever else it might be referenced as such in the code. And so over in Unity, as I have it in the Unity editor, the Listen Once button is going to be that microphone object that I can drag from there to that particular field. So after that, we have three TMP text elements, and those are going to be for the different texts that I mentioned earlier. One is going to be the text that's recognized. The second is going to be the error text, and then the third is going to be the state indicator. Now, for a real world example of using this, let's say that this particular app was used in like a classroom, for example. You probably wouldn't want to add in a recognized text, error text, state indicator, but for all purposes of testing things out and ensuring things are working, I would highly suggest adding that so that way you're aware of if your service is even connecting, because the worst thing to happen is to think that maybe it's a different issue when really it just never connected to begin with. So for all debugging purposes, if you will, I would say start out with that. And then once you can confirm that it's working, you can get rid of those things and modify the code as such so that way you don't need those. And then from there, we have three private strings, and those are going to correspond with the different those different text elements that we mentioned earlier. When Azure does its Azure magic, and it sends back what it is, what it heard, at least in terms of the utterance that you said. That's what's going to come back in the recognized string, as that'll come back as a string. If there's any error, it'll come back as an error. And then the state indicator, that's going to let you keep track of what current state that it's currently in. So from there, we have thread locker, and moving down, we have the actual dialogue service connector, and that's what's going to help connect our bot to actually communicate with us and take in questions that we have and so on and so forth. And then we have some audio fun in here. And again, audio is not my thing, but this is where I can confirm that this part of the code is referencing whatever's happening in this script. So again, that's why you need the script, because I tried to create this once without this and Unity crashed, which, by the way, I will tell you, as you're creating this, if you don't use the correct subscription keys and such, Unity will crash. And I have probably 10 different times that has happened to confirm that Unity will crash. So if you do everything and you go to press play in Unity, and Unity gives you a crash error, it's probably 9 times out of 10 because either you're missing this audio script or your Azure credentials are incorrect, and it's probably the Azure credentials. So that is a heads up. I've learned the hard way for you, so that way you don't have to. So
Wonderful. Well, thank you for that.
Of course. So here in the awake method is what's going to happen when the service starts. So I'm not sure if you heard when the scene first started, because I think I was talking as the bot was talking, but she always starts with welcome. I don't know how to change that, but I can confirm that that is something that does happen. But what's happening here, at least in this awake area, I think it's connecting at least to all the things that we intertwine and connect the bot to, so that way we can bring it into this experience. Down here in the start, we have a comment, which is great, and it explicitly calls connect async on the dialogue service connector and begins listening interaction. So basically what it's doing is it's making the connection, and then it's going to start listening for when you talk. And in our particular case, we have implemented a button that starts the microphone. So what's really happening here is we're checking that the button has been pressed. And then once that button has been pressed, that activates the mic in whatever device you're using, and then you can talk. And then once you talk, then that's what Azure, that's what the experience captures and sends to Azure. Now, what's been added here in the start method is it's a conditional statement to check to make sure that you do have a UI button assigned to it. So that's why this is here. In the event that we forgot to add the UI button, and that's going to be here, then we will get an error and we can't start the whole experience. So it's kind of one of those, you didn't add this, so we can't do anything sort of situations. Now, just below there, we have the update method. Here's thread locker, and then from there we have a conditional statement. One day, Frank, I'm going to learn what thread locker is. I always see it, and I tell myself I'm going to learn what it is, and then I never go back and research it. So one day I will do that. But I can tell you what's happening in this conditional statement. So here in the conditional statement, what's happening is we are creating that clip to play when the bot responds back with whatever the response will be for the question that we asked. So that's what's happening in here. And then just below, we do have a button click method, and that is going to call start listening. And I feel start listening was something that we either created, I think is probably created below. Yeah, it's going to be something that we create below in the text or in the script. So here we have a create dialog service connector method, which we talked about a little bit earlier up top, but this is where we are confirming that we have our correct Azure credentials. And so what it's first checking for in the first conditional statement is that the subscription key itself is there, and that the region is also there. And if it's not, then we're going to get a nice error telling us that we need to add that. And then just below that, we are doing the config for the bot framework. And so there's three things you need here. One is the subscription key, the other is the region, and then the third is going to be the bot ID. The subscription key is going to be your cognitive services speech subscription key. And then the region is going to be the region that you created your bot. So for me, I always use West US2 because I'm here in California. The bot ID itself is actually a very tricky thing to find. And where that's going to be is, I earlier slightly quickly showed it, but without going back and showing my credentials, it's going to be in the, we'll get as far as I can go without showing my credentials at least.
Do you use Azure Mask?
I don't.
Oh.
Yeah, you'll have to tell me what that is.
Yeah,
What is
AZ Mask now it's called. It's a project created by Brian Clarks, who's also a Microsoft Cloud Advocate. It's in GitHub, and it's a tool you could, like, it's an extension of Chrome or Edge Chromium. You could put it there, and it will hide a lot of information. It's not perfect, so sometimes it shows like the key, but a lot of time when you're doing demos, having that enabled will just blur the key, so you could show where is it without displaying your I will share that after the show with you.
Oh, that's smart. That's good to know. I'll have to try that out
for everybody right now.
Yay! Everyone gets one.
Yeah, like, you get one, you get one.
You get one. So for the bot ID, when you are in the Azure portal and you go to your web app bot resource, and you're going to click on settings, and I can't click on it because it's like right there as soon as you get to it. But when you click on settings, there's going to be this box on there that says, wait, let me pull it to the side because I don't want to tell you the wrong thing. 1 second. It's going to say Microsoft App ID. And on there, it'll be grayed out. And that's actually going to be the ID you need. So if you're wondering where is my bot ID, that's where it is. So heading back into Unity, let me go back to my Visual Studio. And so that's the different credentials that you'll need when you're doing the config here. And if you don't provide one, you'll get an issue. And if you provide the incorrect combination, Unity will crash. So keep that in mind. From there, we have there is some audio config happening as well.
I'm sorry. So when you say crash, do you mean like dead or just like crash showing an error or something like that? Like, do you need to restart Unity?
You'll have to restart Unity completely.
Oh, wow, that's like... Okay.
Yeah, it's powerful when you don't have the right Azure credentials.
Okay, like I was not sure. Like first I thought crash, and so maybe it's not crash, but like you just like your application is crashing, like and you just need to restart. Oh wow.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah, Unity goes bye-bye. It'll give you a nice notification with like an error message thing that it has crashed, and then it'll do its whole Unity, do you want to send this off to wherever they collect their feedback for crashes? And so yeah,
okay.
I learned that. Like I said, I think
it's not like Unity just crash. Please uninstall and reinstall.
Oh goodness, that would be horrible. I did that.
Could be worse.
Could be worse, all right? Could be worse. So yeah, keep that in mind. From there in the code, we are doing the audio config, and this is picking up from the mic input that you have. And as we continue to go down, let's see, I'm referencing that audio data script that's here. And just below, we have a on disable method. And my assumption here with this one is that it's disabling the service in itself. And then from there, we have the start listening, which I mentioned this one earlier. So that's going to be further up here in the code in that button click. So that button click is going to be when we press the microphone, it's going to call that start listening method. And that's the method that's going to be right here, which is where it starts to listen for you. And we do have some messages that'll pop up if you haven't configured that correctly, which is great, which is also why I really like using the samples that we provide in all of our various Microsoft docs, because there's a lot of ways to confirm whether or not the service or the app is ready to go before it does what it should be doing. And then down below, I think this is the last section. Let me make sure, because now I'm getting a little fuzzy on explaining exactly what's happening. But as we get down in here, I passed the start listening method. Then we are getting what's recognized. So whatever it was that you said, Azure is giving us back what it heard. And so I didn't quite show that in the demo, but off to the right, there was the canvas, and it showed whatever it was that I said. And again, I like to use that when I'm trying things out to confirm that things are working properly, but also just to check to make sure that maybe I'm saying something incorrectly, for example, or maybe it's picking up the wrong words because like the TV's on in the background and it's hearing me and something else talk.
Yeah.
But in any case, it'll show you what it was recognized.
Okay. So like the speech to text. So you can display the text return and yeah.
Yep, that's exactly what it'll do. And then down below, we have if it's canceled. So that's what's happening there. And I think this here is going to be the last section, which is where I get super duper iffy on explaining what's happening. But it has to do with the audio that's set up in here. And I think from there, yeah, that's it. So that's what's happening in the code. And once you've updated the script, then over here in Unity, you're going to add it as a component to that microphone object that we have. So I have microphone. And then you're going to want to fill in everything that's happening here. So assuming you've created the different game objects for the different text that's here, you'll drag them over to their respective fields. And then what I'm going to do is add in my credentials really quick. And Frank, if you could just show my love face for a moment.
Yes, give me 1 second because it doesn't switch. I will tell you when we're secure. It doesn't work. Why it doesn't work?
And if not, I can do it on my other monitor.
Okay.
And then
yeah, we're safe.
We're safe? Okay. So what I'm doing behind the scenes right now is adding in my my credentials. Oh, goodness. I make myself laugh. All right. So let me just confirm one thing before we bring back my my screen.
Way we could all admire your chair.
Yes.
Hello and welcome.
All right, awesome. So that works. So you can bring back Unity.
Yep. Okay. Let's try my button again. See if those works. Okay. There, my buttons are back. Cool.
Right. So what I did while the screen was away was I added in my credentials for the subscription key and the bot ID. Again, that subscription key would be your cognitive services speech resource that you create. And then your bot ID is going to be your ID for the bot, and then your region will be whatever region you selected. Make sure all your regions are the same. That's another gotcha. I had used a cognitive service resource that had West US 2, and I think one of my services that got created was West US, and then I had some issues there.
Yep.
And
I
unit
hit that
crashed.
kind of issue too. Yep. I did that mistake too.
Yeah, definitely make sure. And I think the best advice I can give there is to take your time because I rushed through it and that's how mine got all messed up. So we're at a point now where I can test this out. And given that we have some more time to play with, I think I might add some more facts here in a bit so you can see just how quick things update with the bot.
Yeah.
But now that we have this working, I'm going to press play here. And I think you should be picking up sound from my computer.
Hello and welcome.
Do you hear that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool.
Loud
So
and clear.
using my in-editor simulation, which is why I really love working with these sort of tools, is because even though, yes, I do have a HoloLens, you don't need the device to work on these experiences. If you're using Mixed Reality Toolkit, you can simulate everything here in Unity, which is great. So I'm going to make this bigger for us all. I can bring my hands up using the spacebar, and I'm going to press the microphone icon. Actually, I need to get rid of this little thing, so I'll do that later. But in any case, I'll use my simulated hands. I'll press the microphone, and then let's ask that Parthenon question again to make sure that she doesn't say September. Instead, say September. So let me bring my hand up, press the button. When was the Parthenon destroyed?
The Parthenon was partially destroyed on September 26, 1687 by an Ottoman ammunition dump inside the building ignited by Venetian bombardment during a siege of the Acropolis.
Perfect. And so as you saw here on or as you may have seen here on the screen, that area where I said we're going to get that speech to text back to see what was recognized, that's what showed here. And that was a question that I asked, when was the Parthenon destroyed? So that's perfect. And then the bot gave us back the correct update, and that said September. So what I'm going to do now is show you just how quick things update if we want to add more questions, for example. And so for here, let me come out of this part of Unity, and given the different ones we have, let's add something for, let's see.
Any suggestions?
Yeah, does anyone have any suggestions or facts that I should add? If not, the internet will always give me one. That's what I use for these.
And I like your, little windows where you show the output, because it's the mixed reality version of the trace of the variables, say like cuckoo, I'm here, or whatever, like we all do when we're doing a program. So like it's just very useful.
Yeah. Let's add another one for. Let's do something for the Parthenon, unless something comes through in the chat.
Yeah, right now we don't have any suggestion from the chat.
All right, so we'll do what I did. I just typed in Parthenon facts. That's what I recently did when I did it. And let's add the height. So it says it's 45 feet. So what we can do is, coming back to the Q&A maker, we're going to go back to my knowledge bases. And from here, we're going to click on the knowledge base. And now I don't have to go through the whole uploading an Excel file and all of that fun again, because all I need to do is come back here into the Q&A maker, click add Q&A pair, and I can ask, how tall is the Parthenon? And then the answer is going to be 45 feet. All right. So from here, I can click save and train. That's training the bot.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Because this is cool. Like, you could like optimize and then blah, blah, blah. But like, if you're losing it, or if you're deleting it, or if you want to recreate it in another one, like you should still do it from an Excel, right? To keep the import possible.
Yeah.
So could you work in Excel and just re-import? Will it override, or like, do you know? Maybe you didn't. Like, that was an unplanned question. I know, but
no, you're fine, and that's something that's worth finding out. Let's see if it's in settings. Maybe it's in settings. Yeah, here in settings. If you are in your knowledge base, all I did was go from the edit to settings tab here, and then in settings. And then in there, you can add the Excel file, if you will, if you had wanted to keep the bot. Okay. So yeah, you can do it that way. Yep. You can connect more, whether you want to add some URLs for the bot to pull stuff from. That'll make it more rich with data, which I think which would be really good though too. You can also export too. So if you, for whatever reason, you had so much happening here and you wanted to export everything, there's an export to knowledge base
so you could word
option
that
in here too.
in that fancy UI and just like live. So you're adding stuff, and then when you're ready, you say, okay, like I have via 1.1, and I export, and now you have your data source if you want to reproduce.
Yeah, you can do that.
Cool.
So yeah, you have some options. And so after we made that one change, I saved and trained. If I come to publish, and then I can click publish in here, and that'll just publish. It'll, as it says, it publishes knowledge base to the Q&A maker, or at least the bot that we've created itself. And so now when I come back into Unity, the question that I added was, how big is the Parthenon? I should be able to click play and ask that question.
Hello and welcome.
How big is the Parthenon?
The Parthenon is located in Athens,
Nope,
Greece.
she didn't get it. So maybe it's not trained that quick. So let's see. Did I get out of play mode?
And
Hello and welcome.
Let's see. Let's come back here. And let me make sure that everything's saved as well. I only know it works because I asked it how tall is the Parthenon. That'll make a big difference. That's also why you have alternative phrasing.
Hello and welcome.
How tall is the Parthenon?
45 feet.
Yay! So as you can see, assuming that your way to ask the questions are accounted for, unlike what I didn't do, the updates that you make, they're going to be pretty quick. So you don't have to worry about waiting, 20 minutes or an hour or whatever time for updates to be reflected in your bot. And then for even an experience like this, once you make that change over in the QnA bot maker, you save and train and you publish, you come back over here into Unity and you can try it out, and the questions have been updated and added. So this was one of the
cool
projects. Yeah, but that is the
demo. Whoop, did we lost you? Oh no, okay, you're back.
No, I'm here.
Could you zoom the arc? Because there's Bell Data that is challenging you on the Constantine arc.
Hello and welcome.
Let me. Oh, I guess I could have.
Could you zoom that image? Yeah.
You know what? Maybe it's better if
maybe
I grab it from
will
up
be
here.
easier on the other screen. Because he says it's he think it's the Arc de Triomphe. And not Constantine arc.
This is where I get confused, because the person that made the asset set, and I've already updated it in here. Initially, they had it labeled as that over in here in the in Unity, but then on the assets store, where is it? That's how they have it labeled in there. So the author of the package, they have it labeled two different ways, but the way what you just said is actually how it was originally labeled over when I did the import into Unity. But here's a better view, if that's possible, to see it a little better there.
Yeah, I don't know enough of those two arc to be sure. Maybe we could just search on internet, but yeah, I was just saying that. It was I think it may be the Arc de Triomphe instead of Constantine's arc.
Gotcha. Well, this is more reasons for why we need to travel.
Let's wait a little bit more, but I agree with you. I missed that.
Yeah, and I think when I first created this experience, it came from a place of I had plans to travel this summer to Europe for the very first time, and I was going to be gone for 2 weeks and get to see all this great stuff, and now I can watch it in my HoloLens. So Almost the same, but not
Oh yeah, yeah,
quite. So
exactly the same, right?
yeah,
Oh no, I
yeah,
miss the traveling part, meeting all the people around, like when we
yeah.
you do user groups and like you're really with
Mhm.
the developers and the creators
It's
and
different.
everybody around I miss that part a lot.
Yeah. It is different, yeah. So yeah, but I will say, for those of you who are looking for, let me turn this back around, the
Oh, we're
camera view.
just sharing the two of us now.
Oh, okay. For those of you, oh yeah, you don't need to show the screen. But for those of you who are interested in doing any sort of mixed reality experiences, especially if they are educational, I can 100% say there are a lot of assets available online, and you don't have to necessarily pay for all of them. Some of them are free. One of my most favorite places to get some from is actually from the Smithsonian. So, me, as someone from Washington, D.C., I spent years growing up going to the Smithsonian, and they have an entire catalog of 3D models that you can use, and it's free, so you can use what's available there as well. And I was working on like a museum exhibit at one point where I was just going to do like a museum exhibit here at my own house and pull some of the different 3D models that they have in their catalog. And I was going to do like, portraits on the wall, and I was going to have the pedestals with objects. But it would have been cool because if it's a mixed reality, you can actually pick up the objects and move them and things like that. And you can't do that in most museums. So maybe one day I'll come back, Frank, and share that. We'll
Of
see. So
course, you're always welcome. Like if I could, I will give you like a VIP pass. Like was it like oh let me they have a TV show in Quebec and like what's the it's and they have a pass they give to special guests and the guests could drop anytime.
oh
I
wow.
forgot the name. Oh, shushu. But like, yeah, what's the like? How do you translate that? Anyway, shushu, like just like kind of favorites, so they could
Yeah.
drop and unannounced on the show.
Oh yeah. We need that for your show.
I'm not sure unannounced because if someone else prepared a long demo, I'm sure they
Yeah.
will appreciate. But definitely
Yeah.
having you and the source you mentioned, Dr. Argus earlier shared that, so it's already in the chat. The 3d.si.edu
Oh, yes.
dot
Yay, thanks for
explore.
sharing that. Yes, yes.
So
Thank
yeah,
you for
yeah,
sharing that.
it was
And you know
trying to
what?
share the link and it was not working, so he spelled it. It was really funny. And I validate, and the link was legit, so I pasted in the
Oh,
chat.
perfect. Yes, thank you. Yes, yes, definitely. They're good. I know there's other places who have more so APIs if you're looking to pull in different things into your projects. Not quite assets you can download, but I know like Getty announced last year, or was it this year, that their archive is available for use in different experiences as well. So the reason why I say all this is because um, if you want to try this out, play with things like that. Assuming that you have internet connection and your PC can handle running Unity, for example, you can get started with this stuff at home without having to worry about spending additional money to try these things out, even with Azure, because when you sign up, you have, is it $200 in credits? I believe it is
I
for Azure,
think like when
or
you
is it
sign up for the
150?
first time, there's a
Yeah.
$200 credit there. A lot of time when you're working in different company, they have the MSDN subscription because you're
Mm-hmm.
using Visual Studio or something like that. And inside of that, there's a Azure benefit. And if you
Yeah.
activate that, it's depending on what kind of Azure not Azure, but Visual Studio you have, you could
Hmm.
have up to 150 monthly. So that's
Which
a
is nice.
lot of Azure credit. You could do a
Yeah.
ton. And I was about to say another word. You could say, start by S and finish by
Yeah.
T. You
Yeah.
could do a lot of Azure stuff
Yeah.
with $150 a month. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So if you have access to Visual Studio in where you work, ask for the Azure benefits
Hmm.
and enable your MSDN subscription, and you have a
Yeah.
lot of credit there. So like yeah, and
Yeah.
then you could do a lot of stuff.
Definitely suggest that. And I know myself personally, I do a lot in Unity because that's the game engine I prefer. But most recently, our very wonderful mixed reality team has updated documentation for those of you who are Unreal developers. And so, if that's your preferred platform for creating experiences and such, definitely give that a try. I'm going to be bad, Frank, and give you a link that you didn't
That's fine.
that I should have gave you before. Let me see if I can find that link. Let me see.
John
I know we
Papa
shared it
did
recently.
that all the stream along yesterday. He gave me a few links
Oh,
and then like dropped me like 10 links I didn't have, so that's fine.
yeah. Oh,
It's
yeah.
live.
It is life. And
That's
you know,
real, you know.
it's because we want you all to know about all the cool things that are
Yeah, it's not
available.
pre-recorded.
Yeah. So this link that I'm about to give Frank will get you to the Unreal documentation that we have. And there it is. All right. So yeah, that'll get you to the Unreal documentation. I can't necessarily speak to Unreal because I'm a Unity person. I go where I know. But if you have been wanting to get started creating things of this nature, give that a try. You can also use Mixed Reality Toolkit. And I always talk about MRTK, which is Mixed Reality Toolkit. There's documentation as well within the link that Frank just shared that'll walk you through how to import MRTK as well into your project so that way you can use it. So highly suggest checking that out. And there's a new cool chess experience in there in documentation that you can try out as well if you're like freshly getting started. So you play chess, Frank, by chance?
Uh, I know how to play chess.
Ah.
I used to play chess a little bit more when my grandpa was alive. He was a huge fan of chess. So my
Yeah.
father teach me so I could, play with his
Well,
father. So I play a little bit. I'm not really good at it, but like I enjoy a few, games once in a while.
yeah. I learned in the fifth grade, fourth or fifth grade. I think it was the fourth grade. Yeah, I learned in the fourth grade how to play, and then I didn't play for years. And then now in our home, we have a ongoing game in my boyfriend's office where every couple of days we'll move a piece.
Oh, that's cool.
And yeah, so we're playing that way. And then we also have a whole second chess set in the living room. So we have like two different chess boards essentially in our house. I'm not the best. I will definitely say that, but it's fun playing, especially since like we have a lot of time right now to play chess, and we're in no rush to have people make moves. So sometimes we go days without a piece. But I say all that because we also now have tutorials of how you can create your own chess experience
Oh,
in mixed reality using your hands to move the pieces, which I think is also like super duper cool too. So
yes, definitely. Like the mixed reality is really awesome.
yeah, yeah,
Just going back to the chat for a few seconds. So
yeah.
we have Phil B Rex.
Hmm.
Was translating the name in English. Sorry for the delay. that was like a little bug in my brain fart. Is it how you say that?
Yeah.
How you say that? Says he loved the bunny chair, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Frank and I made a wager to see how many times it'd be announced or mentioned
So we
today.
got we got a
We
first
got
one,
we got the first one.
and yeah, and Bet Data also mentioned that for Azure for students, there's also a special thing. So if you are a student and you wanna start playing with Azure, I will put a link here in the chat, and it will give you. I'm not sure of the amount.
Yeah.
Uh, Here, Bell Data mentioned $100. It's possible. I know there's a few, but the fun part is it's monthly. So that's again, when it's
Yeah.
monthly, you could do a lot of things with that.
Yeah. And like also like for reference, I know I've been on here what 3 weeks now, Frank, for your Twitch stream, and monthly it's how my Azure subscription is, and I haven't even put a dent into it at all from like all the different stuff that I've created. So that the 150 will definitely go far. I
Yeah,
will
like
say.
if you turn it off when you don't use it, or if you don't go
Yeah.
crazy, you could, like I'm running a bunch of stuff for demos and like
Hmm.
website that I let open. I, like if like you could do a lot of things with the $100 or 150, depending on again on the different MSDN subscription you have. But
Yeah.
yeah, so we also have another comment say they noticed the chair, so cute.
Oh, oh, thank you too. Oh, thank you so much. I was sharing with Frank in the beginning, everyone, that I'm thinking about getting a second one. So we'll see. There might be two bunny chairs
And
at some
next
point in
time you
this
come, I
office.
will draw ears on my
Yeah,
wall just to match.
yes, definitely. Aw. Yeah, my entire home office, there's animals everywhere in like art or little like things I have in terms of like decoration. But I love animals, I would say. So yeah, even my little magnets I'm looking at to my left, they're all, see if I can grab one really quick while we're still here. But can you see like it's a little giraffe?
Oh yeah, it's super cute.
Yeah, and then I also have, if I can also have like an elephant magnet. But then I even have like this card that I'm using as art because I like when animals have like clothes on. Which is probably like a very weird thing to like. But between that and I shared this recently with someone I did a call with at work. Hopefully you can see it. But even like the work that's back here on the wall,
Yeah,
the artists, they combined like Victorian Edwardian dressing style with like animals,
yeah, it's
which I
super
thought was
cool.
interesting.
Fancy animal.
Yeah, I found that on Amazon of all places. It was I think it's a guy that makes it. But yeah, so my office, I can say you'll find a lot of like little small details here and there because details matter.
We have a last question, maybe the last question of the stream since we are about the
Yep.
end. So it's coming from Michael. Say, okay, April, do you have a
Yes.
favorite mixed reality project that you
Oh wait, you
did
just
or are working so far?
say it one more time.
So say, April,
You frozen me mid.
do you have a favorite project in mixed reality that so far? What's your favorite one that you
I
can
will
talk
probably
about, of
say,
course?
I can talk about all the ones that I'm creating. I can talk about at least, and it would be the very. I think it was the first one I shared on your stream, Frank, which was the flashcard app because for the first time ever, I was able to create something that had multiple scenes. And as I shared on that stream, that was my first time creating anything mixed reality that was more than one scene in Unity. So I think that was a really big confidence boost for me. Usually things that I feel like most excited and proud about are things that are confidence boosts. So if I feel that I've created something that I wasn't able to do before, then it really puts me in a really nice mind space. But I really like that one though, because as I've told some folks, I've been learning French since quarantine started. And so that particular flashcard game app, it helped me with my pronunciation and it helped highlight different issues that I needed to fix in terms of how I was saying different words in French, but also seeing that I was capable of also using some of our Azure services, in which in that case it was speech translate, or I think that for that one I used speech to text. I didn't do translation with that one, but for me, it was really more of a life defining moment that, hey, I can do this. And that's why I really like that. And like 100%, like disclaimer, the projects I've shared on the past 3 weeks, including this week, for some of the different areas of it, I recently just learned how to do. So that goes to show that in terms of capability of building the different things, said in the beginning, you don't have to be a genius or have been doing this for like 20 years. Really a matter of taking your time, slowing down, and just really understanding how the technology works and making tweaks here and there. So yeah, the flashcard app one, I am working on adding that to our samples browser that we have here at Microsoft. So that way you can download it yourself and try it out and go have fun with it. Go use it however way you want to do these projects, so you all can run with them.
Cool. And you
So yeah,
just
hopefully
answer
that
the
long-winded answer.
last question from Scrabble was asking, hey, any repo? So it's coming.
Yeah, it is coming. It is definitely coming. I will say when it is available, it'll be in our samples browser, which is at docs.microsoft.com/samples. There are literally so many samples in there from so many different product areas that we have at Microsoft, but we'll be adding some mixed reality ones. And per usual, I will announce on Twitter once they are available for the projects that I've been working on and whatever else my team's working on too, because they make equally, if not better, projects. So,
So make sure you follow her,
yeah,
Vogue and Code, on
yes,
Twitter. And if you have any question, I'm sure you can ask her. And she's
yeah,
a very busy woman, so I'm sure she will reply in time.
yes, I will reply.
Thank you a
But yeah,
lot to coming by. And you're
um,
definitely a shoo of the show, so feel free to
yeah,
feel free to come back. And thank you all to spend our time today with us. It was a pleasure. Tomorrow it will be Brian at this time, same time. Tomorrow it's Brian and Clark. They are continuing to explore Python, so very interesting too.
yay, friends of
And
mine.
with that, I will say au revoir, everybody.
Au revoir.
Bye. Thank you all. Have a good day.